He's 84 years old. The likelihood of this occurring again is pretty slim, but you just can't predict who's dangerous and who's not.
An 84-year-old, the suspect in an East Austin homicide. The new details police say he provided in his confession, including why investigators say he also killed the victim's dog.
Most of us started this morning in the 30s, even some spots below freezing. We're not done with cold nights just yet. We'll show you an eventual warm-up and your Thanksgiving forecast.
But first, the runner-up in the Austin mayoral race wants a recount. Thanks for joining us. I'm Daniel Muddy.
And I'm Jennifer Sanders. Carmen Yanis-Polito wants election officials to recount ballots in 11 precincts in Williamson County. Those precincts represent about 99% of the votes cast in Williamson County in the mayoral race. That's according to KXAN's results team. KXAN's Grace Reeder, though, joins us now in studio because, Grace, the mayor's team says this is not legal.
Yeah, this is all unraveling fast. Let's walk through this. Yanis-Polito filed a petition asking for recounts in 11 precincts in Williamson County. That part is going to be important. She told me this as the reason why, quote, given the razor-thin margin and the number of irregularities in this election cycle, it's critical that we ensure every vote is counted, and I owe it to all of my supporters and all of the voters in the city of Austin, especially the near 50% that voted for new leadership, to ensure that every vote is counted and our process is as fair and transparent as it can be. But the recount request is a move St. Edward's University political science professor Brian Smith says will be expensive, time-consuming, and Yanis-Polito will be at a significant disadvantage even if a recount results in a runoff election.
She would still be at a great disadvantage. It's not like Mayor Watson was the first of 4 candidates. No, he was the first of first. He was very close to that 50%. He's actually a little bit over it. So she would have a lot of ground to gain.
Here's where it gets muddy, though. I just got a statement back from the mayor's office that says this. The recount request is defective. Texas law is clear that in an election that is called by a city, which the mayor's election is, a recount must be for the entire jurisdiction and not just cherry picking a few precincts. That makes sense because one precinct might have a change in the numbers that would be offset in another precinct, but if the second precinct isn't included in the recount, there would be incomplete information and the election would be called incorrectly. This election denial effort even cherry picks in the one county the candidate looks to for a potential recount and doesn't even ask for a recount in all of that county's mayoral election precincts. Meanwhile, the city of Austin is saying this. We can confirm that the city received a petition from Carmen Yanis-Polito requesting a recount. We recognize the importance of this process and will take the necessary and careful steps as required by the election rules and procedures. Mayor Kirk Watson secured more than 50% of the overall vote in the general election, though barely less than 20 votes above the threshold for avoiding a runoff. Should some kind of recount produce the same results, Watson will still win outright in this race. Should a recount find that Watson did not secure more than 50% of the overall vote, it would force him into a runoff with Carmen Yanis-Polito. That would mean Austin voters would have to go back to the polls in December to vote between the two candidates, which is why Yanis-Polito is invested here. And even when this is not over, it may not be over. Yanis-Polito telling me today that there could be next steps in this. She told me that she was even gathering legal advice on this.
All right, Grace Reeder, thank you for your reporting.
Absolutely.
Going in depth right now, there's some rules here in Texas over who and how you can ask for a recount. If it's an election for a position, a recount can only be called for by a candidate who's lost the original election returns, and it's not cheap. If you're calling for a recount, you need to put up $60 for every polling location during that vote that used paper ballots and $100 for every location that used electronic polling machines. If the recount changes the election outcome, that money is returned.
First warning weather with Chief Meteorologist Nick Bannon.
Well, it was our coldest morning since February, but we really bounced back with a lot of sunshine, as you can see from our Lorenz 360 cam from Westlake Hills. Most of us are still in the 70s, although Austin just dropped out of the 70s into the upper 60s. Blanco, San Marcos, you're also in the upper 60s, same with Fredericksburg. Still, these numbers are 5 to 8 degrees warmer than this time yesterday. So despite the colder morning, it was a warmer afternoon. Yet it's going to be another chilly night. Notice how quickly these numbers drop. 62 by 7, and then mid-50s at 9, and then widespread 40s before midnight will set us up for yet another frigid start to the day tomorrow. And many areas away from Austin will once again be in the 30s for your morning low here tomorrow. So coming up in First Warning Weather, we'll show you how long these frigid nights continue ahead of a big weekend warm-up and 2 cold fronts before Thanksgiving.
Resign or we will kill you. That message mailed to Travis County District Attorney Jose Garza's home address. He says it's just one in a series of escalating threats of violence against him over the last 2 years. It's why the Travis County Commissioners Court approved thousands of dollars in county funds to be used for security measures as well as protection.
But the move drew criticism and sparked an ongoing legal fight with Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. KXAN's Avery Travis spoke to the DA and joins us now with the latest. Avery.
You all, thank you so much for having me. You know, today was really the first time we were hearing directly from District Attorney Jose Garza about all of this. And he maintains his office has followed the law and proper procedures as they try to balance transparency and safety. But the growing questions and really ensuing fight, as Daniel and Jen mentioned, over transparency dates back months. So I want to take you back just a bit. Garza says in the spring of 2023 is when these threats really began to escalate online, also in person. He reported some of them to the sheriff's office. From there, he says several security assessments were done. Eventually, he says he reached out to Commissioner's Court. They ultimately approved $115,000 in public money to protect Garza's home and also some other security measures. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton sued the county over that decision, accusing it of violating the state's open meetings laws in how that decision was made. Also going on over the last few months, the fight between Garza and Paxton got a little more complicated. Garza filed multiple lawsuits against Paxton to block the release of some records related to security expenses. One of those was for actually a records request filed by the KXAN investigative team. Now, some of those records fights are still ongoing. We're going to continue to follow those, but we wanted to take him some questions. We asked him about whether he believes they, prioritize transparency in all of this.
We have an obligation to be transparent, and that we have legitimate interests that we have a responsibility to protect. Namely, as I said, our ability to prosecute cases and the ability of elected officials to stay safe and to keep their families safe.
He says they have to strike that balance, but of course follow the law and processes. He believes his office has done that. He says he can't speak for Commissioner's Court, but reiterated several times his thanks to them for taking his concerns seriously. He also noted that he has faith in their leadership in following the law. He told KXAN there was not a clear process for addressing threats like this, but he believes here in Travis County, those processes are being built and they are improving. Now, we're going to try to get more of our conversation with the district attorney about this topic on our website so that you can watch a bit more of that and hear more directly from him. We'll have that on KXAN.com.
And we know you'll stay on top of it. Avery Travis, thank you very much. The International Criminal Court has issued arrest warrants on both sides of the Israel-Hamas war. The ICC is accusing Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his former defense minister of war crimes and crimes against humanity over the 13-month war in Gaza. The ICC also issued warrants for Hamas's military chief, Mohammed Deif, over the October 7th attack on Israel. Now, yet Netanyahu has condemned the court's move, saying that Israel, quote, rejects with disgust the absurd and false actions by the court. The decision turns Netanyahu and the others into internationally wanted suspects, though Israel maintains it killed Mohammed Deif back in August.
In a surprise move today, President-elect Donald Trump's pick for Attorney General Matt Gaetz withdrew his name from consideration. The former congressman said that his confirmation was becoming a distraction to the Trump-Vance transition. The announcement comes a day after he and Vice President-elect J.D. Vance met with Republican senators on Capitol Hill. Gaetz's nomination for Attorney General has been under scrutiny following allegations of sexual assault and a sealed report by the House Ethics Committee. Gaetz has denied the allegations against him and has not been formally charged. It's still unknown if he will try to take back his seat in Congress.
Well, police say an East Austin homicide was the result of domestic violence. An 84-year-old man is accused of killing an 83-year-old woman and her dog. Monday afternoon, officers responded to a home on Bryn Mawr Drive near Windsor Park. That's where they found the bodies in the home, the homeowner, Linda Milsna, and her dog inside a downstairs closet. Police arrested her roommate, Jack Moore, on a charge of first-degree murder. Investigators say during an interview with detectives, Moore confessed to strangling her, using her credit cards to buy 3 dozen gift cards, and forming a plan to flee the country. Police say Moore told them he was worried the victim's family was going to move her into a nursing home.
Mr. Moore had mentioned that he felt like Miss Milsna was potentially going to be moved out of that home by her family, and that he wanted her to die there because she had husbands that had passed away in that residence from natural causes, and he wanted her to die there. And then when it came to the dog, I asked him about that. He said that he wanted the dog to be with her as well.
APD says 13 of the 63 homicides recorded in Austin this year have been related to domestic violence.
The Court of Criminal Appeals grant applicants requested habeas corpus relief, reversal of his convictions for aggravated robbery, and his punishment due to ineffective assistance of counsel at both phases of the trial.
After 2 decades, a man found guilty of manslaughter in Travis County could be getting another trial. This after a judge ruled today the first one was not fair. 20 years ago, Alvin Stewart was convicted of killing his former 7th grade music teacher and stealing his VCR. At the time, the state claimed Stewart was voluntarily in a sexual relationship with the teacher. This year, multiple witnesses were called to testify about the relationship, and the court found that the original defense attorney for Stewart was ineffective for failing to investigate the relationship, as information over it would have possibly changed Stewart's sentencing. Tara Witt, who was part of the team asking for a retrial, says Stewart was finally able to share his story, and she's grateful for the victim's family for hearing from him.
Even though they suffered a terrible loss, and Alvin's feels horrible and his remorse for that, but that the system failed him, and I'm grateful that they are able to see that through their hurt, and that Alvin had a chance to apologize to them.
The judge for this hearing set Stewart's bail, and the case will now be sent to a court of criminal appeal. Dramatic moments on an American Airlines flight from Milwaukee to the Dallas-Fort Worth airport. Police say a passenger rushed a flight attendant to open a door mid-flight, and this happened on Tuesday morning. So investigators say the passenger made a comment about wanting and needing to exit the aircraft now. The report says the passenger then rushed the flight attendant and came within 2 feet of grabbing the handle of the door before passenger Doug McWright bear hugged the man. And McWright says he and several other passengers, quote, took the man down before duct taping his wrists and legs until the plane landed.
If I wouldn't have been in that seat, or you know, if it had been 2 minutes later, you know, you could be reading about it on the news in a whole different way.
Law enforcement and FBI officials met the flight as it arrived at DFW Airport, taking the disruptive passenger into custody. One flight attendant went to the hospital with wrist and neck injuries. We'll be right back.
Hundreds of thousands of Texans are still waiting to access health care due to delays and errors at Texas Health and Human Services.
And we've been reporting on Medicaid issues for more than a year now. And while the agency is making some progress in bringing down those wait times, it needs more help.
Our Ryan Chandler spoke to HHS about their ongoing efforts and to legislators looking for change.
Texas Health and Human Services is a lifeline for the neediest Texans. At their best, they connect low-income families with benefits like Medicaid and nutrition assistance. But when things go wrong, kids go hungry and stay sick.
So that means kids are waiting 3 to 4 months before they can go see a doctor, get on medication that would help them so they can focus and get back at school.
Diana Forrester at Texans Care for Children is hoping 2025 is the time to end years of backlogs and delays in delivering aid to Texas families.
There's so many easy fixes that can make it so much better. It's just, it seems redundant to me to not continue to invest in this thing that we already put a bunch of money into. And ultimately, it it's wasteful.
The current wait time for Texas Works Medicaid and the Children's Health Insurance Program, 71 days. Nearly 233,000 Medicaid applications are overdue, risking federal financial penalties. HHSC tells us they are taking all possible actions to provide benefits to eligible Texans as quickly as possible. In the last year, they brought in more than 2,100 additional workers, but they need more help.
And when a huge chunk of us is struggling to get the needs from the government because the government's not fulfilling their obligations, then we have a problem.
The agency is asking the legislature for nearly $400 million to farther reduce the backlog. That'll help them overhaul outdated technology and hire more than 1,700 workers. State Representative John Busey hopes the legislature will give them whatever they need to succeed.
And if we can't fulfill this obligation, then we're not fulfilling our role as government. And so I would hope that this should be a priority. We spend money on so many other things. Taking care of needy families that are, Texas citizens should be at the top of that list.
Ryan Chandler, KXAN News.
First warning weather with Chief Meteorologist Nick Bannon.
Not just here, but across the state, temperatures are comfortably pleasant right now, upper 60s to near 70. But these numbers will fall quickly into the night with another night of clear skies and light winds. I expect mid-50s here by, say, 8, 9 o'clock here tonight. And then another round of 40s and 30s to begin your morning tomorrow. These temperatures will probably be slightly warmer than they were this morning, say between about 2 to 4 degrees warmer. But still, it's going to be cold anytime you step out into these low 40s and even some middle and upper 30s. It's a frigid start to your day. But the dry air, a lot of sunshine. It's going to be another day where we start cold and end reasonably pleasantly. Upper and middle 60s to near 70 at midday, and then we head for the mid 70s here for tomorrow afternoon. So your forecast tonight, we're down to 42 in Austin, although 30s expected for most areas outside of Austin, again under a clear sky. And then we'll go with 75 for the high tomorrow afternoon, which is roughly 2 degrees warmer than it got to here today. So a little warmer, yes, and a few high thin clouds around too. Not going to really notice the clouds much here. So high, so thin, still plenty of sunshine. We continue into the weekend and our new warm-up continues. 78 Saturday, 84 on Sunday, both days plenty of sunshine. Saturday morning still going to be chilly, by the way, in the mid-40s, but Sunday morning not nearly so. That's because not only are we warming up, but the air is going to get more humid, and that humid air is harder to cool off at night. You could actually see from Saturday night into Sunday, we start to step into that muggy category, and we'll stay there through Monday before a cold front comes our way. Yeah, next week is Thanksgiving, and Thanksgiving has finally shown up on our 7-day forecast. What's the early outlook for next Thursday? Mix of sun and clouds and 72 degrees. There's Turkey Tom with your forecast. How do we get there? Well, there's 2 cold fronts standing in the way of now and Thanksgiving. One of them comes in Tuesday morning, knocks us down from 85 on Monday to 77 on Tuesday. But then we're back up to 80 again on Wednesday. Mix of sun and clouds Tuesday and Wednesday. And then that next cold front comes through Thanksgiving morning and knocks us even chillier down to the low 70s. A reminder, our KXAN Friendsgiving Challenge continues. We're still roughly $15,000 shy of our $75,000 goal for your evening team, and we would love your help, and we would love to get as close to 75,000 as we can before the weekend. KXAN.com/Friendsgiving, or scan that QR code.
Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, they're out with their efficiency playbook. I'm Connell McShane with News Nation. In a Wall Street Journal essay, Musk and Ramaswamy sketching out plans for a Department of Efficiency in Donald Trump's administration. Now, Musk repeatedly has said he wants to slash $2 trillion in government spending. A key step to get there, a mass headcount reduction in the federal workforce by identifying the minimum number of employees required at an agency in order to function. Also on the agenda, requiring federal employees to work in person 5 days a week, which could, in their words, result in a wave of voluntary terminations that we welcome. If federal employees don't want to show up, American taxpayers shouldn't pay them for the COVID-era privilege of staying home. Another additional potential chopping block number for them is $500 million for public broadcasting and $300 million for, quote, progressive groups like Planned Parenthood. Important to note, Congress authorizes the budget for those programs. I'm Connell McShane. This is the News Nation Political Minute.
We're committed to accuracy here at KXAN, which is why we want to address an error in a graphic that we had a little earlier in the show. In a graphic, we said the Texas Health and Human Services Department asked the federal government for millions of dollars. We meant to say the state government. We'll be right back.